Hey guys, how's it going? I wanted to make a quick video to go over the stuff we talked about today in case you couldn't see it on the projector, or you got behind, or there was something else that happened, right? Or if you had to leave early. And this will be the kind of video that I make for all of our projects, so I'm also kind of testing out my camera stuff and formats and all of that kind of stuff too. Okay, so here I am. Let's talk about all of our basic keyboard shortcuts that we went over, okay? So last class on Monday, we talked about two of my favorites. One of them is Shift-C, which turns you into a spinning three-dimensional person, and there's no picture there, so you can't really tell that it's 3D. The way that you activate that is Shift-C, right? That makes the little cursor thing come up. And then you click and you drag, okay? And that will move you around in a 3D view. So that's Shift-C. So let's go over some of our basic tools. If you go to the File menu, Save is one that's super important. And the keyboard shortcut for that is Control-S, okay? And then Edit is super important. In the Edit menu, we have our favorite tool, which is Undo, Control-Z. And then we have our second favorite tool, which is Redo, Control-Y. So those two, Undo and Redo, you'll use a bunch. Other ones that we use a lot are Cut, Control-X, Copy, Control-C, and Paste, which is Control-V. So those are some basic things, and those translate across all different softwares, not just Vectorworks. So you can use those in Word, or you can use those in Photoshop. Those are pretty standard across all softwares. So then after we've got that out of the way, those are our big picture, right, keyboard shortcuts. The ones that we're going to use a lot in the basic tool palette, right, that's where we're going to start when we're drawing. So we'll start with the basic tool palette. We have the selection tool, which is the pointer. And the keyboard shortcut to get to that is X. So if I hit X, I'll get the selection tool. And then the other one that we talked about today was the rectangle tool. That's 4, right? The key 4 will pick up the rectangle, and then I can draw a rectangle on my screen. Okay? And now I'm going to Control-Z to undo that because I don't actually want a rectangle right now. Back to top plan view, right? That'll zoom me back out so I'm looking at a 2D drafting. The other thing that we talked about today are the different tool sets in this tool sets window, okay? And if you can't see enough of them, like when you're in the spotlight tool, if you want to see more of them, you go right here on this border and you can drag it and make more or less space. The same is true here, right? If you wanted to get more or less space to read what they say. So the spotlight tool are mostly all of the lighting tools that we use. Then we have the event tools, and those are staging tools. So that's where you find curtains and steel deck and video surfaces, right? Video screens or speakers. So it's basically all of our theatrical stuff that is not a light. So we played a little bit with the soft goods tool, which draws a curtain for you. So if you click once, it'll start drawing that curtain, and then every time you click, it'll add another point, right, to the line, and then you double click, and it turns it into an actual curtain. So if I zoom in using the scroll wheel on my mouse, I use Shift-C, and I go into flyover mode so I can be in 3D, and it's a 3D curtain. I'm going to go back to top plan. Right? I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see the whole thing. If I stayed in the curtain tool, right, it would just keep drawing curtains every time I stopped. So to get out of the curtain tool, I'll hit the X key. Now I'm in the selection tool. And there are a couple of ways to select things. You can click and draw a box, and that'll pick something up, and you can tell something is selected because it turns orange. So when we were talking before about drawing rectangles, hit the 4, that opens the rectangle tool. I click one time, that sets the first endpoint, and then I drag my mouse over to make the shape of the rectangle, and I click another time. and now it's orange. The problem is if I click again and again, I'm just going to keep drawing more rectangles, right? Vectorworks assumes I want to keep drawing rectangles until I tell it that I really don't need any more. So there are a couple of ways to get rid of some of these rectangles that I don't care about anymore. One of them is to undo. That's Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, right? If I want to redo, if I want to, oops, I took away too many rectangles, I can use Control Y. And as I keep hitting Y, Control Y, Control Y, they come back, right? So that's how you use the undo and redo functions. The next thing that we talked about a little bit was over here in navigation, right? We talked about our design layers, our sheet layers, and our classes. And those are found up here as well. So the thing to remember is the ones up here at the top are what are we drawing in right now. It's the active class. See how I highlight that and it comes up, says active class right underneath it. So that's the active class. This is the active layer, which is scenery. It also is telling you, if you look closely, it'll tell you what scale that's drawing in. And then the active plane, which you don't need to worry about right now. We'll talk about that later. But active class and active layer are there. So classes and layers come up again over here in the navigation panel. If you click here on the bracket diagram, the classes diagram, right? It's going to tell you about a whole bunch of different classes, and classes are just a way of organizing pieces of the drawing, okay? So you take your classes and it's a way to turn things on or turn things off. The thing that we'll use more often in this class is in this course, is our layers view. So that's right next to the classes. It looks like a stack of pieces of paper. Those are design layers. Whichever one has the check mark is the active layer. So if I want to switch from drawing scenery to drawing a light plot, I would click on the light plot layer, and it's turning everything gray because that's the stuff that I'm not drawing right now, okay? I have choices here in layer options, and that will allow me to show other layers or snap to other layers or only see the active layer and hide everything else. I'm going to leave gray snap layers on for right now, but sometimes I'll want to be able to get in and mess with my other layers. Other times that's a great way to prevent me from accidentally deleting the set when I'm trying to just delete a light in the light plot. And that's why those layers are structured in the way that they are. Then the sheet layers over here, right, when you click on the sheet layers tab, those are the different pieces of paper that you print on, right? So this is the blank piece of paper that is called Arch D size. It's 24 inches by 36 inches. That's like the bigger plots that we use. So I have a ground plan drawing that's in that size, and it has a little CSArts title block for you that I made, and I'll show you how to fill in that title block later because it's a little weird. And then I have an 11 by 17, so 11 inches by 17 inches, and it has a different little CSArts title block for you. So those are things that are all in your template file. So that was pretty much what we covered in the interface, right? The thing that we were talking about a little bit at the beginning was setting up our workspaces and setting up our template file. So I'm going to do that as a separate video, just in case you ever need to do that again. But this was more about your basic interface orientation. Okay, thanks. See you guys Monday.